Hi, I'm Ari, I'm the Oak Witch, and today's video I'm going to be giving you some beginner witch tips. So does anyone else have a little bit of deja vu? Today's video is going to be a remake of an old video that I made last October called Tips for Beginner Witches. I'm remaking it because I recently rewatched it back and I realised that there are some things I said on there which not necessarily problematic, but it's not advice that I would give now, and I didn't explain it very well back then anyway, so I wanted to remake it. It didn't feel right still having up advice that I wouldn't necessarily give right now. It didn't feel very authentic, so I'm gonna remake it and I hope that's okay with you. So in this video I'm going to attempt to give better advice and explain it better. So here are my tips for beginner witches. With my first tip being, you don't have to know everything all at once. And this is a tip which I want to stress because I think a lot of people experience this. I definitely experienced this, and honestly sometimes I still kind of experience it. There is no rush to know everything straight away. It really isn't. We're not in competition with each other, and I think that can be a bit of a vice that people have sometimes. We sort of tend to compare ourselves to other people. You know, if there's a topic which you're not very strong on but someone else is, that's not your weakness, that's just their strength. You know, someone else's strength is not necessarily your weakness. If you're feeling a little bit disheartened or having a bit of imposter syndrome, just remember that everybody goes at their own pace. We all have our limitations, we all have our strengths, and honestly we all have our different busy lives. The only thing that matters is your level of comfort with your own practice, and that's all that matters. So just remember that going forward. Don't feel that there's pressure to know everything and be the best witch that you can be straight away. It honestly just takes time. It's a journey. This is a path that you'll be following for however long you see fit, and your progression is going to look really different to other people's that you encounter. So that's my first tip. And my second tip follows quite nicely in that you don't have to have everything all at once. There is no rush to buy everything that you need straight away. You really don't need to bulk buy every herb that's in that plant magic book you've just bought. You don't need to buy every crystal there is for each correspondence. You don't need to buy every single tool that you don't even know if you're going to use or not. What I suggest doing instead is actually just buy things as you need them. If there's things which you want to try out, try looking at what you already have and use those tools instead. Build an authentic relationship with your craft. I think this will help you appreciate the spirit of the tool, of the object, of the herb a lot more. Witchcraft isn't about just consumerism and buying loads of stuff to look at it and just watch it pile up. That's not what witchcraft is about. These things that we use are magical ingredients, and building a relationship with them, a relationship appreciation, it will help your magic flow a lot more authentically and a lot more easily. My third tip is just allow yourself time to figure things out. And this is kind of related to my first tip again, but it's more about, you know, don't knock yourself if you are struggling to figure out the basics, for example. I recently had a comment on one of my videos saying about how they are struggling feeling energy and that they practice centering but they can't actually feel anything, and at least not what other people are saying that they feel. My response was just to keep an open mind. Comparing your experience with other people is unfair, and you need to engage in compassionate thinking. Don't knock yourself because you can't feel anything yet, because these things take time. And actually going in with these high expectations of what to expect and what you think you're going to feel based on what other people have felt or experienced, I think can actually make you miss out what you may actually be experiencing. This whole process, this whole journey, this path is something which is highly subjective and highly personal. So your experience might be completely different to somebody else's experience, and it's okay if certain practices take you a while to perfect or a while to figure out. It's okay. Allow yourself some compassion and allow yourself some time to figure it out. It may take you a while, and that's okay. And my fourth tip is to read, but also apply that knowledge. I've said this before, everyone kind of says it. Researching and reading is really, really important. It just kind of is. There's a lot of knowledge to be learnt in this craft, in any magical tradition, and reading books, for example, is a really good and crucial medium to absorb information. Read books, articles, magazines, attend talks, conferences, watch YouTube videos, listen to podcasts. But I would say avoid social media networking sites as your primary source of information. Even YouTube, to be honest. I don't want anyone taking my videos and thinking that that's it and they shouldn't do anything else. You need to also do other things. So avoid Twitter, avoid TikTok especially, avoid Pinterest and Tumblr, whatever. Social media networking sites, they shouldn't be your primary source of information. Arguably, they shouldn't even be your secondary source of information. It's just not reliable. It's not trustworthy. No doubt that there's probably great content creators on TikTok. I don't personally have TikTok, but no doubt that there are some good ones on there, but they should not be your only source of information, let alone your primary or secondary. I feel like I shouldn't have to explain why. But yeah, the stress of reading and researching is emphasised because it's important. Being knowledgeable about a topic before you dive into practicing it is just for safety reasons, and I have said this before in my videos, but it really is important to know what you're doing before you do it. And like I said before, there's no rush on this path, so when you're researching, put full effort into it. The only goals that I set are the ones that you set yourself. So yeah. But then this also goes further in that don't just stop at the reading. We have this term called armchair magician. Don't be an armchair magician. If you want to be a witch, you shouldn't be an armchair magician, because being a witch is to practice witchcraft. So when you're reading books, when you're absorbing information, apply that information, apply that knowledge. If you're reading a book about spellcraft and it lists different techniques, don't just read them and think that's it. Apply those techniques to your spellcraft, Actually do the work alongside, and you'll make for such a much more enriched craft. So long as you're not culturally appropriating or disrespecting closed practices, you should be applying the knowledge that you read. Tip number 5, document your journey. And this can look like a book of shadows, a grimoire. This can look like a bunch of Word documents in a file on your computer. This can just look like some random pieces of paper you've collected together and put it in a folder. It doesn't matter what medium you choose to write in. Just write stuff down. Write your experiences down. You don't need to be filling this out every single day as well. You don't need to be filling in your book of shadows every single day and doing every single thing. You can if you want to, and if that really works for you, then that's great. You shouldn't pressure yourself in and making sure that you fill out every single day. Again, the only goals you set are the ones you set yourself. So you can document spells, things that you've crafted, and recipes. You can document chants that you've come up with, or poetry that you've written. Or, really, you can document anything which you think is magical. And I say this tip because having written record of your progression and of your journey is so magical. Writing in itself is really magical and such a wonderful ritualistic process. So being able to actually look back on your journey and reflect at where you were and how far you've come is something which is really, really lovely, and it is actually really helpful. Tip number 6. The only validation that you need is your own. Other people's perception of your craft does not matter. The only thing that matters is your own perception of your craft. And I want you to remember this when you're scrolling through Instagram and you see other people's craft and spells and whatever, and you get that feeling of, oh, I'm not doing what they're doing, what am I doing wrong? Or if you catch yourself feeling jealous at other witchy content. Remember this when you're reading through someone else's experiences that they've shared on a Discord server and you start feeling a bit intimidated. Remember this when you're doing a spell and you feel the need to take a picture of it and post it online. I'm not trying to invalidate anyone who experiences this or feels these things, because I think we've all sort of been there and we all go to that place sometimes. But it's really important to remember that likes and other people's validation on like a photo is not the same thing as you practicing witchcraft. Posting a picture of a burning candle and then adding a bunch of sparkly effects and putting that to Instagram is not the same as you practicing witchcraft. It really isn't. These things might be fun, but that isn't you being a witch. And I don't mean to bring this up to bully anyone who does these things, because it's fun sharing witchy aesthetic content, but I think there is an emphasis on the aesthetic. And I also think that sometimes there is this idea of likes and shares and comments and whatever, getting into this idea of having that validate your practice, and it really shouldn't. Witchcraft and your experiences with magic, energy and spirit are highly personal and highly subjective, and nobody else can tell you what you're experiencing, and no one else can validate that for you. And this applies to the idea of trying to get other people to interpret your dreams and to tell you whether or not what you experienced was a sign. No one else can tell you that for you. Guidance is helpful. Giving people the tools to interpret their own dreams is helpful, but other people telling you what your dream meant is unhelpful. These are things you have to figure out yourself. You know, unfortunately, it's a bit daunting. Sometimes it can even be a little bit scary, but that is a part of being a witch. That is a part of this magical process and this journey, and yeah, you just have to figure it out yourself, and the only thing that matters is your own validation of your craft and your own journey throughout it. Tip number 7 is to not isolate yourself to witchy content. And this further goes into the idea of like knowing isn't just being aware of the topic, it's having a full background into it. For example, this is why some people, including me, stress the idea of researching history. To get an understanding of how something's developed over time and how something is where it is today and why we practice it in the way that we do today, researching history can give you that background. For example, if you want to research apotropaic magic and British folk magic, you might want to look at architecture and the history of architecture, and you'll find things relating to witches' marks that are found in buildings across Britain. It's this idea of, don't isolate yourself to just witchy 101 books. History, architecture, poetry, old literature from the area that you're researching, sociology, philosophy, psychology, natural history, ecology, conservation. All of these topics are really interesting, for one, and can be important and relevant to witchcraft practices. These are all things you can study and incorporate into your craft, so don't necessarily think that you need to only read witchcraft 101 books. There's lots of things that you can read and research and get a background into, and that will help you actually get a good information, get a good background into witchcraft. Tip number 8, and this is to be safe. Practicing safety in your craft is vital, and if not equally important, to the wonderful spiritual, magical side. So protect your magic, fire safety, which includes, leaving candles unattended. Don't do that. Make sure you have a properly fireproof candle plate. Avoid wooden candle holders, for example. I've made that mistake. So, just be sensible. Fire is fire. It can quite easily go out of control if you're not paying attention. This also includes if you're rubbing herbs and oils on your candles, make sure that your fireproof dish is relatively big and very, very safe, because doing so to your candles creates a massive firebomb, basically. Herbs can catch on fire, so if you're caking your candles, especially These type of candles, if you're stuffing a whole bunch of herbs in the top, that's going to generate a lot of heat, and the glass can explode. It can crack, and this has happened. I see surprisingly a lot of videos of this happening, and no, it's not a sign. I'm sorry, it's not a sign that someone's calling out to you. You just didn't practice fire safety. I hope that doesn't offend anyone, but it's really important to just be sensible, be safe in your practices, because, you know, don't burn your house down. Let's not do that. You know, that's not a very witchy thing to do. So let's just be safe. Being safe also refers to if you're foraging or just using herbs in your practice, make sure that you know what you're handling. You know what you're ingesting. Make sure you know what you're ingesting before you take it internally. Don't take essential oils internally. There's loads and loads of things. Maybe I should do a separate safety video. But I will link a good safety video below. I think HearthWitch did a good one. And I'll have that linked below. So yeah, just be sensible, please. Take care of yourselves. Tip number 9 is the axiom to be silent has its merits. This actually entails quite a lot of different things, but the way I'm interpreting it is you don't have to share everything to everybody. And I'm looking at you, beginner witches. No shade, no flame. You don't have to share everything with everybody. This does link to the idea of seeking validation from other people, but also, look, the beginner excitement, people call it the honeymoon phase or whatever, is really, really wonderful, and don't let anybody ruin that for you. Don't let anyone take the excitement out of magic for you, because it is exciting, it is wonderful. Witchcraft is fun. You know, it is. Some people like to portray it as if it's really dark and gloomy and terrible, like, burden that we bear, but we have to because we're witches. I'm sorry, I don't think that's true. If that's true for you, then cool. But witchcraft is fun. It is. It's great. I love it a lot. I love being a witch. But also, a witch's secrets can be a very powerful tool. I think personally that magic and energy and whatnot can flow better and more efficiently if other people's opinions and perceptions and energies aren't influencing it. I think there's something to be said for the axiom to be silent. This doesn't mean to say you have to keep everything a secret or else, but there is this level of some things are actually best to keep to yourself. If you think about it psychologically, sometimes if you're sharing your spell straight away online on Discord, and you take a picture of your protection spell that you've sort of put on Discord, on Discord server, of this jar that you've made, and you're immediately like, oh, look at this, what do you think? You're immediately taking away that power from yourself. You're immediately giving that to someone else, you know? So that's why this idea of your own perception of your craft, your own validation is so important. You know, you got this. You got this, okay? It doesn't matter if you make some mistakes. If you do a spell and it doesn't work or it backfires, it's okay. We've all been there. I've had things backfire a fair amount of times. Every experienced practitioner has. So it may take you a while to figure out what magic feels like, what it feels like for a spell to work. It will take you some time. It will, and that's okay. So there is no need to immediately share everything online and just see what people say. I think sometimes actually having that period of time where you can self-reflect, where you can actually experience it just with yourself is really powerful. So yeah, I'll leave that tip at that. And tip number 10, just practice. To be a witch is to practice witchcraft. As hinted at earlier, Witches are not armchair magicians. If you want help to incorporate magic into your daily life, then watch my daily practice video. I do touch on this idea of to be a witch is to practice witchcraft. To be a witch is not to read a book on witchcraft and think that that's it. That's not what being a witch is. There are plenty of magical traditions you can go into that aren't witchcraft. You know, if you don't like the idea of practicing spells, then just look at another magical tradition. It's okay. You don't have to practice witchcraft. There are plenty of other magical titles you can ascribe to yourself. But I also find that there's this danger of letting that inner saboteur and that inner procrastinator to allow yourself to put off things. And, oh, I don't want to do this because I'm not ready yet. Or because I haven't fully researched or I'm not an expert on it yet. I don't want to step into it too soon. Spoiler alert, the term expert is highly misleading. No one is an expert on everything, and you learn by doing. Witches learn by experiencing. And yes, be safe, be sensible, make sure you sort of have an idea of what you're doing before you do it, right? But also, experience is the best teacher. Really cliche quote, I know, but it's true. I don't think anybody knows everything, and I think once you get comfortable with that, it can be quite validating. You know, you see a lot of people online trying to pretend that they know everything, and they don't. No shade, no tea, but just bear that in mind, and allow that to inspire you to just practice, to learn, and to be comfortable with making mistakes, because you will. You just will. Make sure you're not making catastrophic mistakes, you know, like burning down your house because you left a candle unattended. Another thing to add in this idea is progression isn't always linear. Progression can look like loops and hoops and just a tangled mess. And that's okay. That's okay. Progression doesn't have to be linear. It doesn't have to be this narrow path. You may take a bunch of different paths in your practice, and that's okay. You know? So, yeah. I just hope that summarizes all of it in the idea of just practice, you'll get the hang of it, and if you have any questions, just ask me, ask other experienced practitioners, and yeah. So those were my tips. I hope you enjoyed this video, I hope it was useful. I'm glad that I remade this video because yeah, I think I explained things a lot better, and I think I added some tips in which I think are more important and hopefully more guiding to the beginner witch. Ultimately, magic is absolutely wonderful. Being able to live a magical life is just, it's really rewarding, it's really beautiful, and witchcraft is fun. It is. So have fun and enjoy the learning. There is magic in the journey, in the progression, not just the destination, if there even is a destination, right? So yeah, thank you all for watching. If you like this video, give a like, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.